Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Brother Alaya, and I'm coming back at you with another video, right? And before I jump into it, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory as always to the Most High Yahweh, and I'll do so by Shema Mashiach Yahushua. That is to say in the name of His only God's Son, who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, right? And in today's video lesson, right, we're going to be touching on how hell, right, in terms of a place where you burn forever, and your soul is punished and tortured for eternity by the spiritual demon Satan, right? So a red man with a pitchfork, right? That's not biblical. All right. We've been, raised up, here, in America as so-called Israelites, or Israelites rather, right? So-called Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? In the Christian church and all these different religions, even in Islam, right? They have something in Islam called the seven hells, right? In Hinduism, they have, something else. I want to say that's similar, where there's like a whole bunch of hells, right? And none of these things have anything to do with the words of the true living God, right? What you come to find out is that you don't find these different things, right, being described in the Bible whatsoever. Right now, you have the word hell in the Bible, right, but it simply has, two main, different meanings, right? One being a lower state, and the other being what? The grave, the pit, the place where one goes after their soul departs from their body, and their bodily remains, are buried in the ground. That's, hell. And we're going to be diving into a few different accounts, as well in the scriptures, right, showing the proper use of that word hell and how it, has nothing to do, right, with some imaginary place that Christians made up, right, where your soul, again, burns for eternity. All right. So, boom, right, diving right into it. Right. I want to say that, that typical place of hell that people believe exists and is found in the Bible, right? That really comes from Greek mythology, right? And we're going to be diving into the history in this lesson, right? But first and foremost, I want to get a scripture, right? Let's go to the book of Genesis, the first chapter, right? Because when you read the book of Genesis, what you find out is that you don't read about hell in the creation, all right? When the Most High creates, the different things, the earth, right, the firmament, right, the heaven, all these different things, right? You don't see hell being created, right? And that's why. And why is that? Because the Lord never created hell. The Lord never created some place deep beneath the abyss of the earth where one can go and can dig once you get to a point where you'll be able to actually come across this imaginary place, and be able to actually see the different souls and the people that's down there, and there's kind of nowhere that they can escape, right? So this is the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse number 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Right? So that's what we see it right here, plainly in the first verse. Really. Right? It says in the beginning, the Most High created the heaven and the earth. It doesn't say anything about hell. And you can read the rest of this, chapter, and you don't see anything about hell being mentioned whatsoever. Right? So, let's cut to the chase, man. First and foremost, like I just said, you don't read about hell in the creation story. So automatically that already cancels out that being a thing in the scriptures. All right. The Most High, He has order. The Lord is not the author of confusion, as it states in 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 40. Right. So the Lord didn't miss a detail and forgot to add that in there. It's not, it was never created to begin with. All right. So now we're going to touch right on the etymology, right, of that word hell, both the Old and the so-called New Testament. Right, so let's deal with it first in the so-called New Testament, right? And this is just a verse I gathered in the book of Acts, right? In this account, and I'm going to actually read it real fast, right? This is the book of Acts, chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse number 30. Therefore, being a prophet, and knowing that the Most High had sworn with an oath to him that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he will raise up Christ to sit on his throne. This is talking about who? The fruit of the loins of King David, right? That Christ will come through him, right, to be the Messiah to deliver the people, nation of Israel, right, from the present evils, right, of his life. Reading on, he's saying this before speak of the resurrection of Mashiach, that his soul was not left in hell, neither did his flesh see corruption. So according to this verse, right, you know, a Christian that believes in the imaginary place hell, they would have to argue that Christ was in hell, right? Because it says his soul was not left in hell. Meaning what? It came a point in time to where he actually was uh, delivered from hell. All right, so was this hell that this verse is speaking on in Acts 2 and 31? This place right here, right? Where a whole bunch of naked men and women being tortured day in and day out with no clothes on by so-called white angels, right? In a dungeon somewhere, deep down in the abyss, being cooked alive in a pot, right? Or is this just a part of somebody's freak imagination, right? And I'm here to, let you know that that's actually part of somebody's freak imagination. It has nothing to do with the Bible whatsoever, right? So this hell that Christ was left in was actually dealing with the grave, the pit, the place where one goes when they die, all right? Because what? The Lord was resurrected on the third day, right? They buried his body. They kind of had the guards, the centurions, watching over the grave so that his disciples wouldn't come and, take his body away and then pretend and act as if, oh, the Lord, he was resurrected. And, and really what his disciples came and kind of took him out of that grave. But no, the Lord literally resurrected from the dead, right? His body, and he was translated. All right. So he was really resurrected from the grave, the pit. He wasn't resurrected from a literal place called hell, right? Else Christians would be going off. That would mean y'all would be saying that the Lord was in a place where wicked sinners go to burn for eternity. Other which, if hell was a real place, all you Christians would be in it because y'all believe that the law is done away with. All right, so it's hypocritical. Y'all double talking. All right, but nonetheless, let's dive into that word hell. So it goes into that Greek word Hades, man. And that's actually a place in Greek mythology. I'm going to touch on that in this video. Named Hades or Pluto, the god of the lower regions. And this actually is idolatry, man. Right? You believe in hell, you're believing in a false god. A false god, this so-called white man that's naked, that's underneath the earth with a whole bunch of other naked people doing God knows what. Forever. In a place that's concealed in darkness and fire. Right? Where, apparently the Most High can't get to because, Christians, they believe that hell was given as a place for Satan to live. As if the Most High, can't be anywhere at all times. As if he isn't already everywhere at all times. Right? So it says Orcus, the netherworld, the realm of the dead. It says later use of this word, the grave, death, and hell. And that's always been the use of the word, man. A lower state, But, they want to add on these different idolatrous terms, right? We're actually going to get into how, these different things were added in, right? But nonetheless, this is not what it's dealing with. These first two, no. But the third one, yes. All right, when you deal with the so-called Old Testament, right, in that word hell, right, in the Hebrew, is dealing with the word Sheol, right? So for Sheol, it says what? The underworld, the grave, hell, pit. So that underworld, you gotta get that up out of there, right? Because that's dealing with Hades, that Greek mythological world, that Babylonian world where people, they go after the judgment to burn forever, to be punished forever. The Lord's not dealing with that. It's not biblical, right? So it's dealing with the grave, hell, or pit, all right? The abode for the dead, right? Because what? When you're in hell, what the worms, they feed on your decaying body. You know what I'm saying? When you're in hell, you don't have any power, right, to come back to life, unless you're a partaker of that resurrection, right, and are ordained from the foundation of the world to receive salvation via Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. But if not, let's believe, you feel me, there's no getting out of that. All right. So it says place of no return. And that's right. Once you die, you can't just, I'm gonna revive, like this is Fortnite or something, right? It says without praise of God, right? Because you can't praise. Scriptures talk about how you're not able to praise the Lord dead. You're not able to bring forth righteousness when you're dead, right? Because what? Your soul already left your body, so there's no more doing that. You're in the spirit world at that point, right? And your body is in hell, in that grave, in that pit. Wicked sent there for punishment, righteous not abandoned to it, of extreme degradation and sin. All right, so it all goes back to being in that grave, that hell, in that lower state. Okay, so really, as we just seen from that Greek uh, version of that word hell, where it goes back to Hades, which is what a place known as the underworld. All right, by different nations who worship deities, right? They believe to have these different gods that have eventually created this imaginary place all of a sudden under the earth that's nowhere mentioned in the creation story, where the dead resided in the afterlife ultimately. You know, right? So now let me get this Wikipedia article, right? On the really, I want to dive into the origins of the concept of hell, right? In terms of the Christianity, where they get that from. Right, so let's start kicking it off. It's the book. We'll start from the top. It says the origins of the concepts of Sheol are debated. The general characteristics of an afterlife such as Sheol were not unique to the ancient Israelites, right? Because that was something that we didn't believe in. That was something that the Most High never commanded us, ultimately, right? So already with the first sentence being read, we already see that the Israelites was not dealing with this false concept of hell. The Babylonians had a similar underworld called Aralu, and the Greeks had one known as Hades. As such, it is assumed that the early Israelites apparently believed that the graves of families of tribe all united into one collectively unified grave. This is what the biblical Hebrew term Sheol refers to, the common grave of humans. It's exactly like I was saying. Right now, it's not like they just teleport next to each other underground. No, right? They kind of was on the deep end with that one, right? But nonetheless, it's dealing with you, where your body goes, your remains after you die, right? And it's into the grave to be recycled back into the earth, that hell, that lower state, that place where you can't praise the Most High, you can't bring forth any more righteous works, or when everything is set in stone, your spirit goes up to the Most High in the third heaven, and you're judged for your works, right afterwards. Let me get a verse real quick, proving how after you die, your spirit goes up to the Most High. Ecclesiastes 12. I want to say 7. It reads, "Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was," right? So that's the hell that you're gonna go, back to that lower state, right? And the spirit shall return unto the Most High who gave it, and your spirit leaves and it goes up to the Most High in the third heaven. And so that's the hell. Your dust, your body returning back to the earth, because we're made of the earth. Read about that in the book of Sirach, 17, the first few verses. Even in the book of Genesis, the Lord created man, the Lord created Adam. Right, so going back to it, it says, the common grave of humans, therefore the family tomb is the central concept in understanding biblical views of the afterlife. Right, that's the only thing that the scriptures hint to. It don't hint to anything outside of that. It doesn't hint to now all of a sudden this whole huge imaginary world, right, that all human beings are now condemned to perpetual torture, and they say, hell, your spirit goes there. How can since when? Last time I checked, the Lord didn't say a spirit can feel pain. So I mean, it's like, what the hell are these people talking about? Right, it's absolute madness. Right, it says it is not mere sentimental respect for the physical remains that is the motivation for the practice, but rather an assumed connection between proper sepulture and the condition of happiness of the deceased in the afterlife. Right. This person, I don't want to say that name, has argued that Sheol in the Hebrew Bible refers to an underworld deity. And this is more than likely a heathen, That's why these heathen, these other nations have no business, right, being in our book, right? Because they start to incorporate all manner of wickedness, as they always have done, into things that, were given to the righteous. That's Isaiah 26:10. Right? Though, you show the wicked, the ways of righteousness, yet they're going to continue to deal perversely. Right? So, these heathens have no business being in our book, because then they start to invent made up things called hell. Right? About an underworld abyss that naked people go to burn forever. It says this person has argued that Sheol in the Hebrew Bible refers to an underworld deity. See, look at this. Goes back to idolatry. These Hinduists, right, says the mythology of religions of most cultures incorporate a god of death, right? But what? To the Israelites, it has not happened so, right? We're not these other nations. The Lord made us separate and holy from these other nations, so we don't believe and do the things that these other nations do. So for you to say that, you would be, basically saying that we're not, chosen, we're not holy, we're not set apart, right? We're just like everybody else. And the Lord didn't make us just like everybody else. And not only that, but the Lord gave us the truth. And these nations have lies. Some additional support for this hypothesis come from the ancient Near Eastern literary materials, right? And they're just basing it off of what the cultures that were surrounding, the regions where the Israelites lived, right? And we know that these damn cultures that the Israelites were extracted from these nations, he was already into, idolatry. And when Abraham, he left Ur of the Chaldees, right? People that was already worshiping these strange gods and idols, right? So it's no surprise that Near Eastern cultures, they were, into that, idolatry, that worship these false gods, different concepts like hell, in terms of the underworld, right? So, I mean, that's very much something that shouldn't be implied, because we know that the Israelites, they were given a different God, with different customs, with different belief system, completely opposite from that of the world. It says it has been proved that Sheol is the Hebrew derivative of Shu'alah, an underworld goddess of Hurrian origin, attested in Hattusa in Anatolia, Amar and Ugarit in Syria, and in Ur, Mesopotamia. Salakia, continuing on, it says the Hebrew derivative of Shu'alah, an underworld goddess of Hurrian origin, attested in Hattusa in Anatolia, Amar and Ugarit in Syria, and Ur in Mesopotamia, which is where Abraham, right, he came from, with his nephew Lot, often alongside other underworld deities such as Alani or Ugar. These are all false gods that people, literally live their lives to serve in wickedness and lust and evil, thinking that they're doing some good, grave duty, when they're really just living their lives in vain, all to receive judgment for their wicked works in the next. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately in the day of judgment. According to Assyriologist Luis Feliu, a connection between Sheol and Shu'alah is possible but not certain. That's madness. You don't even see this. This is not even talking about how to even begin with to happen. For there to be in a connection, right? In terms of Greek mythology, in terms of the way these other nations believe that their gods did things. You know what I'm saying? That's nothing but straight idolatry, right? These heathens are incorporating their wicked belief systems into our book. Man, this had nothing to do with the Hebrew Israelites whatsoever. Edward Lipinski regards this connection as proven, and these devils want to say that, it's a proof, it's a fact. Some scholars agree that Sheol understood anthropomorphically fits the semantic complex of other ancient Near Eastern death deities such as Nergal, Ereshkigal, and look at this, man. This is madness. Just naked gods with wings freaking off underneath the earth, man. If that's not the imagination of some wicked man, woman, or child, I don't know what is. That's how wicked men think, man. All these, wicked, freakish gods, man. The Lord's not dealing with any of it. The Lord's going to destroy each and every single last one of it according to the law with fire. All right? We'll read. That might be it. Let me see. Might be it on that. I'm going to continue reading. The Second Temple period wrought several radical theological changes within the Israelite population and marked the transition from Israelite religion to modern Judaism. And that's not biblical. The Israelites didn't now become some man-made religion created by the so-called white man. The Israelite is not a religion. Being an Israelite is a ethnical culture that, was passed down, patriarchally, via what Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob through the covenant which they made with the Most High, or in the covenant rather, with which the Most High made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is not something you can kind of just convert to, right? That's showing you that what these nations, they tapped into our book and they started making it, inclusive to every nation under heaven. But the Lord is not dealing with inclusivity. The Lord said these other nations are nothing. That's Isaiah 40, verse 15 through 17. Second Ezra 6 and 54. You feel what I'm saying? All these different scriptures, on how the Lord doesn't like these nations. Romans 9:13, the Lord hates Esau. You know, the idea of Sheol underwent extensive modifications and became widely diversified with a newfound plethora of interpretations. You know, the Lord is not dealing with multiple wicked interpretations of the Bible. There's only one true interpretation of the scriptures, and only the elect are going to be able to pick that up. This is the book of 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 20. Knowing this first, that no prophecy of the scripture is of any private interpretation. So that's a cut to that. You know, the Lord said there's no private interpretations of the book. It's all plain. It all flows smoothly, man. The Lord didn't make any errors. There's no contradictions. You know, there's no new discoveries made by man. Everything is in accordance with the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. With the codification of rabbinical Judaism and the Talmud. And the Lord is not dealing with the Talmud or rabbinical Judaism from these Amalekites. Jewish theology concerning the afterlife had largely abandoned the concept of a single destination for all mankind after death and adopted the more recognizable model which espoused a place of reward for the righteous and a place of punishment for the wicked called Gehenna. And that's, you know, in their wicked Talmudic, Gomorric books, man. The Lord is not dealing with. These people don't believe in the scriptures. But reading on, subsequently, Sheol and the related terms Abaddon or Shakat, etc., were reduced to synonyms for this realm of punishment. And you know, where do you read about, again, the creation of hell in the book of Genesis that these people claim to be all about? You know, and that's showing how these people are truly idolatrous people that really aren't even the people of the book, right? Like I said again, this is why these nations can't have access to our book, because they start to incorporate all manner of freakisms, wild ideas. You know, and that's, you know, it screams Esau all on them now. Because only Esau, man, would do something so wicked. You know, like those images that I just pulled up not too long ago. You know, about that false dimension, that false underground place, hell, right, with those naked Edomites. You know, only they would think to do something like that, and that was their culture. That's what they were into. The Lord is not dealing with any of it. And that's, you know, nothing but an ideological belief of this world, right? Because it wasn't just Esau getting down with that. You had these other nations, you know, tagging along as well, right? But reading on, right? Well, you know, continuing on nonetheless. Really, you know, the Edomites, so-called white men, you know, they really got this whole ideology from who? The Babylonians, right? An ancient nation of Hamites, right? Who worship, you know, these false gods before them. And they ultimately started this wave of false gods, right? And, you know, these other nations, you know, who caught on afterwards started picking up on these different things and deities, thinking that these, you know, deities were here from the beginning because what? Those nations were ancient nations, nations that were here from the very beginning that the Most High placed in certain places, you know, in the so-called Near East, you know. Whole time, these, you know, these gods, these nations are false, right? But, you know, really, like I said, it started from the Babylonians, right? And then, you know, these different nations, as time went on, they, you know, extracted, you know, different details of the gods of these different nations, and they took it upon themselves to fashion their gods after these different nations, just like the gods of the Romans, the gods of the Greeks. They all fashion their gods after the gods of the Babylonians, but they give them different names. So we're going to read this AI overview generated article, you know, summarizing, you know, the question that I posed in the search bar: Greeks worship Babylonian deities. Really, I was trying to ask, did Greek worships Babylonian deities? This is what they said. While the Greeks did not directly worship Babylonian deities, right? They didn't worship them as their Babylonian names, of course, right? Because they changed it, you know, language, you know, evolved and all these different things, right? They're not going to tell you that, you know, Christmas you're worshiping Nimrod and all these different things, you know, which all goes back to Babylon, right? You know, they changed the names. Language evolves as time goes on. It says they did sometimes identify certain Babylonian gods, particularly Marduk, known as Bel in the Greek. You read about Bel in the scriptures, you know, with their own gods like Zeus, due to similar characteristics and functions, demonstrating a level of cultural influence between the two civilizations, right? And the Greeks came, you know, long after, you know, the so-called ancient Babylonians. It says, essentially, they interpreted the Babylonian gods to their own understanding of divinity. So they extracted, you know, the information of these wicked idolatrous gods of the Babylonians, and they added their own little twist to it. That's what this article is saying. You know, showing the wickedness of these nations yet again. And, you know, and it also shows how the scriptures are yet to, you know, still remain, always be true. Right? Let me get this. In Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. It says, the thing that have been, the thing that have been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So everything, history repeats itself, as they say. There's nothing that's been here that has already been here. It's the same recycled ideas, concepts, in this life that we live. Nothing is new. People have been doing the things we do today in 2025, way, back, all the way from the time of the Babylonians, all the way from the time of the Greeks. It's all being repeated even to this very day. People are still worshiping Marduk, Nimrod, right? Hell, it's all just packaged in a more modern way as, so-called technology improves and all these different things, witchcraft and sorcery, right? But nonetheless, these are the same concepts, the same gods, right? This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 15. That which have been is now, right? So that which was already here, hey, guess what? That thing is back on the earth today. Hey, the same thing with man. Man, has been and man is now, right? You've been on this earth before, right? Your spirit has been in a different body aforetime, right? It left that body, and now it's in the body that you're in, watching this video in today. If you have ears to hear, and that which is to be have already been, and that was, was coming afterwards, after these days in which we're living in now. And guess what? That's already been here, and the Most High required that which is past, right? So there's no new thing under the sun. All right. So these are reoccurring concepts that we see all throughout history. So now, I wanted to go into something else. All right, I wanted to go into something else. Right. So also, I missed a point. Right. The Greeks, they worship Babylonian deities. Right. Like I just mentioned, Marduk and all those different gods. Right. And that underworld concept, they renamed it Hades, which is why you see that word for hell in the Greek is Hades. And they also have another place called Tartarus. Right. Whereas and these are the different places that Christianity gets his idolatrous concepts of help from. That's the origination of it. All right. And I wanted to dive into this article. And it says this: the ancient Mesopotamian underworld, known in Samaria as Ker, Irkala, Kuku, Arali, or Kigal, and in Akkadian as Ursatul, was the lowermost part of the ancient Near Eastern cosmos, roughly parallel to the region known as Tartarus. All right, so it's showing you the so-called specific location that these wicked nations believe that this place actually, in real life was actually, functioning fully now. And, really, we understand that this is nothing but the fabrication of somebody's imagination. It has nothing to do with reality, real life. People are believing in false gods. Look at this, more naked human beings. It's freakish mentality these people have. They can't have enough. It says in Greek mythology, Tartarus is the deep abyss that is used as a dungeon of torment and suffering for the wicked, and as the prison for the Titans. Tartarus is the place where, according to Plato's Gorgias, souls are judged after death, where the wicked receive divine punishment. That's what they tell you. They tell you in Christianity. You don't help the old lady across the street, and you're going to hell. You're going to burn forever. So according to the Christianity, every single human being on earth is going to burn forever in hell. Okay, I mean, it's ridiculous. These people actually believe these things, and they get it from these ancient Mesopotamian Near East gods, man, of what ancient Sumer or Ur of the Chaldees. That's where it all goes back to. It says it was described as a dark, dreary cavern. These people love, the caves, man. They're always dealing with something with caves, so-called white men, located deep below the ground. They can't have enough of these caves, man, where inhabitants were believed to continue a transpositional version of life on Earth. Like he was translated, he was teleported, so-called. The only food to drink was dry dust. The family members of the deceased would pour sacred mineral libations from the earth for them to drink. This is nothing but, like I said, it's ridiculous. Somebody on the earth can pour a drink, and all of a sudden now you're eating, you're drinking, like it's an actual prison. People are putting money on your books. The Lord is not dealing with this. In the Sumerian underworld, it was initially believed that there was no final judgment of the deceased, and the dead were neither punished nor rewarded for their deeds in life. Right, so that's what the ancient Babylonians believed that, it was kind of just a neutral place, but the Greeks, they kind of added their own little twist, like I said earlier, and they made it to where, oh, you eat dust, you're naked, you're burning with flames and fire, and you can't escape. This damn image that keep on popping up on the screen is madness. People actually worship this. Where are those people now? They're all dead. Lord is not dealing with them, you know. This happens you worship idols, man. The Lord roots you out of the face of the earth. It says the ruler of the underworld was the goddess Erishigal, right? So naked Near East women of these other nations look like who knows, who lived in the place of Ganzer, sometimes used as a name for the underworld itself. Her husband was either Gugalana, the canal inspector of Anu, or especially in later stories, Nergal, the god of war, right? And it's dealing with all this polytheistic, religion of gods, man. Like the so-called Greeks, man. They get all these things from these other nations that were before them, through their wickedness and their carnality, believing that these people were actually gods, right? When the Lord tells you in the scriptures that the one and only true God, Yahweh, right, by Shem Yahushua, but he's a God that doesn't show himself, he hides himself, man. For you to make all these diverse images with your wicked imagination and say that that's God, man, you're going completely against the scriptures. If you didn't incorporate that in the scripture, in the Bible that completely, in multiple ways cuts that wicked doctrine, you're off. You're not right in the head. This is Isaiah 45:15. Verily thou art a God that hidest thyself, O God of Israel, the Savior. All right, so the Lord, he's the God of Israel, and he hides himself. All right, and the Lord has only dealt with the nation of Israel up close and personal. Now, as we can see, these other nations, they don't know what the hell's going on because the Lord was never dealing with them to begin with. All right. After the Akkadian period, 2334 BC to 2154 BC, Nergal sometimes took over the role as a ruler of the underworld. Right, and these are ancient times, man. The very beginning of cultures as a civilization. Okay, the seven gates of the underworld. And, I think Islam believes in seven hells, and I think Hinduists believe in seven hells. Man, it's madness. They all are connected in some way to these ancient, wicked cult-like practices of these idolatrous false gods. Who was named Neti in the Sumerian, the god Namtar acts Erish Kigal Sukal, or divine attendant. The dying god. Let me say that again. The dying god. Right? Dumusid spends half the year in the underworld, while during the other half his place is taken by his sister, the scribal goddess Jestanana, who records the names of the deceased. And also, this is a fabrication of make. The underworld was also the abode of various demons, including the hideous child devourer Lamashtu, the fearsome wind demon, and protector god Pazazu, and Gala, who dragged mortals to the underworld. Man, this is all just. You actually have people that, whole civilizations of people that believed in this madness. And these were the people that was ruling over the earth. I see why the Most High kind of had the Israelites just come into the land of Canaan and just slay all of the inhabitants, man. These people were wicked. And they were low level, man. Stupid enough to worship a damn rock. Right? It's crazy, man. It's crazy as hell to think how jacked up these nations really had us, man. Living in this idolatry madness. Right? Now I'm gonna go into a few videos, right, on the so-called Greek mythology madness. Right, so we want to deal with Hades first, right? Which, again, I said earlier, these Greeks, they get their gods and their belief system from these ancient cultures and civilizations that were before them, right? The Babylonians, more specifically, the Chaldeans, the Sumerians, which all go back to that same nation of the Babylonians. So let's watch the video. A short little video.
I am Hades, king and ruler of the underworld, my home. I am the god of death, riches, and precious metals. I am also one of Kronos and Rhea's children, and my siblings are Zeus, Poseidon, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia. Charon accompanies the deceased during his journey to the underworld on a boat through the Acheron River. Once the dead set their feet on my kingdom, their body disappears and they become invisible, wandering until it's their time to be judged. Cerberus, the entrance guardian, makes sure that nobody will be able to return in the lands of the living.
See, it's all madness and made up BS, right? When you hear about hell, Don't be scared, man. Right? Don't fall into that trap. That's what they want you to do. It's all just attack the divine and conquer, divide and conquer, and instill fear within the people. Man. I remember as a kid, my mom kind of told me, kind of did something that was off. My mom kind of told me, hey, do that again, you're going to hell. It's all just to scare you.
My old job didn't have room to grow, so I looked into a
It's the evil
cybersecurity
way.
degree from WGU. Cybersecurity.
Little kid does something that he doesn't know is wrong, and you respond by saying that he's going to be punished for eternity in a place burning, feeling all manner of pain and destruction, and never be able to escape this place. Where he's going to be forever thirsty, forever hungry, and forever suffering in every way possible in his flesh. We don't suffer enough being on this earth right now, which is really the hell that we're in as Israelites, as black so-called black Hispanics and Native Americans. Each and every single day we wake up, all the way to when we go to sleep, being tormented by spirits and demons. All right, this is the hell we live in. Right, the heaven of you other nations. Yeah, there's to hear. Right, so let's dive into this second video. Right, they're diving into Tartarus, which they say is actually a place in Hades, right? That is like the Christianity hell that you read that they speak about in the churches and all these different things. It's not biblical that they extract from these idolatrous, wicked nations.
There seems to be quite an interest in many of the primordial deities that existed in ancient Greece, and one of the most requested seems to be Tartarus. Now, as of all of the primordial deities, there has always been this debate as to whether they were actual physical beings, or manifestations and personifications of ideas and places. When exactly Tartarus came to exist is something that changes depending on the source that you're using. Hesiod himself believed that Tartarus was the third primordial deity, following Chaos and Gaia. He also believed that Tartarus was the father of the monster Typhon. In the ancient Orphic tales, Tartarus was considered both a deity and a place located in the underworld. He was also considered to be the first deity to have existed. It was then from him that light and the cosmos were born. Tartarus the place can be found deep under the earth, even deeper than Hades. Quite often Tartarus and the underworld are confused as the same place, but Tartarus can almost be described as the abyss below the underworld, which does in fact merge with Hades in certain places. The easiest way to distinguish between Tartarus and Hades is that Hades is the place of the dead, where they go to rest or be punished once they have been judged by Akos, Minos and Rhadamanthys. Now, according to Plato, these three judges amongst deciding the fate of those in Hades also decided which of them would be sent to Tartarus. Over the years, Tartarus would serve as a place for those who committed unspeakable acts against the gods or humanity. Tartarus essentially became a prison. The earliest account of this being when Cronus rose to power as the king of the Titans. He immediately imprisoned the Hecatoncheires and the Cyclopes within Tartarus because he felt they could possibly overthrow him. Cronus would then place a dragon outside the entrance of Tartarus to act as a guard, but Zeus would later kill this dragon when he travelled to Tartarus to free its prisoners and ask for their assistance during the war. Ironically enough, Tartarus would then serve as a prison for many of the Titans when Zeus and his fellow Olympians would eventually emerge victorious. With the people of ancient...
See that? That's pretty much all I really wanted to touch on that. But people actually believe in these places. And you have many people that actually died in the name of these wicked, false gods that were literally drawn by human hands. It's utter ridiculousness, bro. This is what makes us Israelites above these other nations, on another fold, bro. Because it's just like, you people are pea brains to actually believe such a thing. It is, these nations heard about the Israelites and what the Lord Yahweh, did. They still, they still believe in these wicked false gods, bro. So how stupid they are. True. Why the Lord said that they were inferior to us, man. Quite literally. But I'm being a little nice about it by saying inferior. But nonetheless, right, let's go back to that word hell in the so-called Hebrew, right, which is the true, get the true breakdown on it, even though that word hell in the Greek in its proper context in the Bible, when it's read in its proper context with the proper meaning of hell, relating back to the Hebrew, it's perfectly fine. But when you attach those Greek ideologies and religious beliefs into it, that's when you're going off. Right? That's why these heathens can't have hold of our scriptures, of our Bible, of our book. And they didn't just kind of take it from us and just did that and we were okay with it. No. For them to, do what they did to twist the words like they done, they raped, robbed, and murdered our people, so-called Black Hispanic Native Americans, via slavery. Whether it was the transatlantic slave trade, slave trades before that, right? The Greek slave trade, the Roman slave trade, or all these different things. So again, the word Sheol, right, which is dealing with the word hell in the Hebrew, grave, hell, pit, place of no return without praise of God, wicked sent there for punishment, righteous not abandoned to it, of extreme degradation and sin. Right? And we're going to get a few accounts. I brought out earlier the account where who the Lord called Jesus Christ, and how he was left in it, how the Lord didn't leave his soul in hell, meaning what? He wasn't left in the grave. The Lord, he rescued him, he saved him. He resurrected him, as was prophesied, as he promised, So that's all that means. So I'm going to get a few accounts on hell now. Right? Try to speed through these things, but it's probably I got quite a few. All right, so it says, hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. So hell and destruction go hand in hand, because when you're destroyed, that's when you go to the grave, right? Without destruction, there's no hell, And so, yeah, you're in hell when your body is now deceased and is underground, right? So the scripture is saying that these two things are never full, right? Why? Because when you die, you're buried in the ground, in the grave, in the dust, which where dust, you decay, you recycle into that dust, and your body disappears and it decays, like I said, right? And there's more room made, which is why it says it's never full. The same way that your eyes are never satisfied with seeing. You always want to see. You always wake up every day. Your eyes don't get full or tired of seeing. That's what your eyes were created to do. That's what the grave was. This word hell right here, dealing with that word Sheol again, was desired or was made to do, to consume the corpses of human beings and animals, right? Recycle it and to make space for more. Which is why there's still, with all the billions of people that died, there's still room for more of these people to be, buried in the ground again. It's not like it's going to run out of space. The Lord knew what he was doing. That's the perfect creation of the Most High. Let's get another precept. Wisdom of Solomon, the 16th chapter. And I'm going to skip the 13th verse. It says, "For thou hast power of life and death. Thou leadest to the gates of hell and bringest up again." And this is that hell that the Lord Yahushua went to, right? He's not saying a literal hell, right, that these nations, they actually believed in, that had a physical gate. Since when do physical, or when do spiritual places have physical things? What the hell? Physical concepts. You know what I'm saying? It's just madness. Right? A gate that you can kind of open and shut. Like what? Right? But nonetheless, I brought this verse out to prove that, hell is dealing with nothing other than just you dying, right? When you are led to the gates of hell, that means what? You died, right? That's what happens when the Lord leads you to the gates of hell, right? The Most High, he has the power to do that. He has the power to kill you and to require your soul from you, right? He also has the power to, undo what he just did. He has the power to resurrect you, to heal you, to revive you, so to speak. Kind of got shot in the head. The Lord can kind of have you die, and he also, if he wanted to, he could put your spirit back into your body and have you, real recover, like something you would see out of a movie. Kind of get shot and your skin kind of heals and regrows, and the bullet leaves your body. The Lord can do that if he wanted to. And the Lord did it with Yahushua, So the Lord has power to kill you and take you to the grave. He has power to resurrect you and to lift you up out of that grave, man, to come back to life again. All right, that's all that's saying. It's not saying it's a little physical place. It's not neither is this deep breakdown, about what actually undergoes and happens to hell. Right? These Christians are too little. They don't have a spiritual mind when it comes to the scripture, so they're taking everything little. This is why you have to have a spiritual mind. When in the Bible, you actually have to understand history. You have to be an Israelite. There's no way you're going to understand these things if you're not an Israelite. So that verse right there, Wisdom of Solomon 16:13, lays the foundation for the rest of the verses I'm going to bring out. Proving how hell is simply just a grave or a lower state. This is Jonah in the belly of the whale, and said, "I cried by reason of my affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell I cried I." Meaning what? Was he literally in hell when he was in the mouth of this whale? No, meaning what? He was at the doorstep of death. He was at the gates of hell, like Wisdom of Solomon 16:13 said. Right? He was near death, and now heard my voice. So no, it's not dealing with a little actual location of hell. Okay? You have to leave Christianity alone once you come into this knowledge of the scriptures, man. Christianity is a man-made doctrine of this world that the Lord is not dealing with. The Lord is not dealing with the mass majority following after his word, man. It wasn't meant for the mass majority to follow after, which is why you only had 8 people be saved in the days of Noah. You only had a few people being saved in the days of Elijah the prophet. The same way now, you want to have a small remnant that's going to be saved. It's Matthew 11:23. And thou Capernaum, which art exalted to heaven, shall be brought down to hell. Is that literally it being in heaven in this account? Christians don't want to deal with that. No, it's parabolic. It's metaphorical speech, saying what you're high up, but you're going to be brought down low. You know what I'm saying? The Lord's going to humble you. That's all it's saying. This is not a literal. Oh, Capernaum is actually in heaven. The Lord is not dealing with that. You're not going to have an earthly city of men dwelling in the heavens with the Most High, kind of just doing their thing up there. No, it's talking about you're going to be put down for being on high, and you're going to be brought down low. Okay? That's all it's saying. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 16, and verse 18. And I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. Right? Peter was the rock of the church. And the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Meaning what? Death. Right? Because Peter taught what? Repentance. The gospel. All these different things that leads to life and the Israelites evermore. Right? So death, or hell, was not going to prevail against it. Okay? It's very simple. Once you gain the understanding. Right? And I understand, Christianity, all these different religions, but once you come to this understanding, you must leave all of the other stuff alone, right? Because it's going to lead you to another never-ending abyss of being bugged out. It's Isaiah chapter 5, verse 14. Therefore, hell enlarged herself. Does that mean that, the Most High created hell and hell expanded? No, we didn't read that in Genesis. Let's talk about what? Death, right? It's what? Increasing and open her mouth without measure. That's what we see on the earth each and every single day. As people starve, die from famine, being murdered, killed, shot, you see death enlarging yourself and being open without measure. And their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoices shall descend into it, right? Because what? Being in hell means you're in a lower state. And ultimately you're in the grave. If hell enlarges stuff, they open their mouth without measure, that means death is consuming a lot of people on earth. They're being brought from being on high, and they're being brought down low. From being on heaven, down to hell. As we just read in Matthew. Right? That's all it's doing, man. From being on a high state, being brought down to a low state. It's quite simple once you actually read within the lines of the scriptures, man. And this is why it's important to read precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, as it's decent. Isaiah 28:10. Here a little and there a little. This is the book of Mark, chapter 9, verse 43. And if thy hand offend thee, cut it off. It is better for thee to enter into life maimed than having 2 hands to go into hell. Is that literal hell? Right? You should literally cut off your hand with literal scissors, with a literal knife. Right? Or else you're going to go to literal, or you're going to go to metaphor. You're going to go to hell that Christianity paints. No. Right? And the hell, the scriptures paint, like I said, was a lower state in death. What a grave about. Right? Which is what that grave represents. It represents death ultimately. Alright? So the Lord is saying in this account right here that, whatever it is that ultimately is caused you to go off, you got to get rid of it. Right? Because it's better for you to get rid of that thing, to not deal with it ever again, rather than to have it cause you to be what? Punished and judged in the lake of fire. To put to death. Ultimately, not to, obtain or take part in that first resurrection. To go into hell, into the fire that shall never be quenched. Because what? That second death that the Lord's coming with is going to be a fire or the memorial of destruction that's going to constantly be there. Just like the same thing with Sodom and Gomorrah. When that fire, when that smoke was going to be rising up forever. Was that literal? No. Well, when the Lord talked about that smoke rising up forever, this meant what? It's going to be a memorial, right? The destruction is going to be a memorial of, the things in which the Lord worked. And, it's going to be talked about forever. Because even to this very day, people are still talking about what the Lord did to Sodom and Gomorrah thousands of years ago. Same way with the second death in America, where the Lord destroys it, right? And America is going to be set as an example and a memorial, one not to live and be like, and breaking the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High, because the Lord is going to fire and brimstone like the different heaven in Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And the destruction is going to be so great to where it's not, the Lord doesn't have to have physical smoke go up in the air 24/7, 365. No, the destruction and the end of what the Lord is going to work on that land is going to, testify against it. testify of it. Okay, I'm gonna bring out like probably gonna bring out like one more. All right, just really want to deal with these misconceptions. I'm actually get this book, scroll bar. If I can't find it, I might just actually have to bring out my actual Bible. This is the book of Songs of the Three Holy Children, chapter 1 and verse 66. O Hanani, Azariah, and Mishael, bless ye Yahweh, praise and exalt him above all forever, for he hath delivered us from hell. Meaning what? Death, because when we read about the account of three holy children, book of Daniel, and his three holy children, right? What? They were about to be cast to a furnace of fire, right? So were they literally in hell when he was in that furnace of fire? No, they was literally face to face with death, right? So that's what I mean. The Lord delivered us from being in that low state. He delivered us from the grave and saved us from the hand of death. So it tells you plainly that what hell is synonymous with death, and delivered us out of the midst of the furnace and burning flame, right? Because they wanted them to worship false gods, right? They wanted to worship, all these diverse gods that, so-called ruled the imaginary false underworld now, but they did. They worshiped the Most High, creator of heaven and earth, even out of the midst of the fire, have he delivered us, man. All right? So it means the lowest state, death, the grave, all right? Playing upon tables. Low women, that makes sense, right? But that, was it. And those precepts. All right, so whenever you read the scriptures, don't take that hell literally. Right, and another point, really, I wanted to get to, right? Even though I don't have the parallel Bible open right now, but you can kind of look into it further for yourself for more edification. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 42 and verse 38. Right, and he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone, and the mischief will fall him by the way in which ye go. Then shall ye bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Right, meaning what? To the little grave, right? But what? Christians, if they see somebody just still, that's talking about the grave. But these idiots don't know that when you go into the Hebrew, it's that same word that's used for hell, which is Sheol in the Hebrew. And it's literally talking about, the same thing, just used in a different word, right? But it's the same meaning. The grave, the lowest state, the dust, you feel me? Place where, one goes when they die. You feel what I'm saying? So, when you go into Spanish, you feel what I'm saying? It actually shows the word Sheol. Right? Because I got a Spanish parallel Bible when I read this account. In the Spanish, instead of that word grave right there, you see Sheol, the Hebrew word for it, which is dealing with that same Hebrew word for hell. You know what I'm saying? Because what? Hell and the grave are synonymous. Death and the grave are synonymous. Death and hell are synonymous. All right? Playing upon tables. That's what I'm trying to do through the Spirit, as the Lord, commands. It's the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2. I'm actually get it from a scroll bar. It's the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, and verse number 2. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. Right? That's what must be done for Israel. Right? For Israel, we were very stiff-necked, hard-hearted people. Nehemiah 8 and 8, so they read in the book and the law of God distinctly and gave the sense that caused them to understand and read it. And that's what I'm doing, giving the sense, making it make sense. All right? But now, my next point was what? The meaning of the word hell, right? It really changed in the scriptures, right? And it became known as these different, underworlds that these nations worship, concepts, right? And along with what? Why? Because the enslavement, right, of the Israelites, man, the so-called Black, Spanish, Native Americans, by the heathen nations, by the non-Israelites, right? The Edomites, the Moabites, the Hamites, right? Which be identified today as the so-called white man, the Chinese man, the African man, and the other nations, the Arabs, the Ishmaelites, round about us, but wanted to what? They ultimately did these things, right? They incorporated their false concept of hell to the scriptures. Why? Because they wanted to rewrite our history so that they could what? Stop, so that we can stop following the Most High, right? And forget about what our rich upbringing, being the chosen people of the Most High, right? Being promised with the riches and the abundance of the whole entire earth. Appointed to rule over these nations, which are less than us, which are lower than us, right? In righteousness, man. They don't want us to rule over in righteousness. They want to continue to freak off in the flesh, right? And we're supposed to be kings over them. That's the highest class, right? And they're supposed to be what? Slaves in the lowest class, man. In the kingdom of heaven, which is what? When we're placed in our land and we're ruling over the earth, keeping the laws and commandments of the Most High. That's what these nations don't want. That's why they, tried to write the scriptures, man. I want to get a few verses on that. How these nations literally come together, even though they themselves don't even like each other, right? For the sake of coming together against the greatest people on the face of the earth, that they know is the greatest people on the face of the earth, they're willing to do whatever it takes. That's how it is. We fight an enemy that's just so much above your league, man. We're above the league of these nations, man, which is why they do what they do. This is the book of Psalm, chapter 83, verse number 1. The song of Psalmist Asaph, keep not thou silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies, man, these people are our enemies, make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy headwinds. They have said, right, this is what they say, when they come together in wickedness, or to try to cut us off from being a nation. Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. It's like it, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. They want us to forget about ourselves, forget about what the truth is about, so that they can continue to rule us forever, because they understand that once we break the laws, then we're no longer placed on high, we're brought down to hell. For they have consulted together with one consent, man. They have one sole mission. They are confederate against you, man, to seek and find out ways to stop the Israelites from keeping the commandments, right? Because sin is our kryptonite. The tabernacles of Edom, man, the so-called white man, and the Ishmaelites, the so-called Arab man of Moab, the so-called Chinese man, and the Hagarians, ancient nation of Africans, Cabal and Ammon, right? Ammon being Japanese man, Cabal, right? And Amalek, man, so-called, cereal bowl condom heads. Those people that walk around portraying to be us, as it states in Revelations 2 and 9. The Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. Say Lot. Right, so all these nations with diverse, different backgrounds coming together, all this seek to destroy the Israelites, man. Right? We can read about the Greeks specifically who incorporated their word into our book about what they did, and the wickedness and evil they've done to try to seek to cut us off from being a nation on a physical level. This is not spiritual. That's not spiritual. Them coming together to do. It's just physical, bro. But it's spiritual in terms of the spirits that's on them to do these wicked things and evil deeds against the Israelites. It's the book of 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse number 1. And it reads thus. Not long after this, the king set an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of their God. And that's what they do, try to incorporate these wicked idolatrous things so that we can stop following the Lord. And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, man. That's madness. These naked, wicked statues that they had, that they worship, they want us to partake in that. And they forced us to do that. They either said, you get down and die, or you live and serve Jupiter. And Gerizim, right? That in Gerizim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the peace. The coming in of the mission was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, daily with heartless. They dealt with whores in our temples, man, just profaning us in the utmost, most disrespectful way, but ultimately disrespecting the Most High, above all when it's said and done. But also the apple of his eye, the Israelites. It had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, having popping women in the holy place with all kind of fluids and all kind of things, It's wicked, man. That's why their gods are naked, Besides that, brought in things that were not lawful toward. The altar also was filled with profane things which the law forbidden. Probably had period blood, all kind of madness, man. These people are very disgusting and disturbing. All in the name to stop us from serving our God. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or ancient feasts or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. It was a violation of the so-called amendments of the Greeks, right? To call yourself an Israelite, man. Just like it will in these days to come. The Lord said there's nothing new under the sun. Same when they had all these different things and false gospel. And the same thing as the things in which they did. all reoccur again. Verse 7. And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. So they had some wicked cult like, festivity going on, that they forced upon the Israelites to do these things, or else, they would have had to face death, punishment, and chastisement. Slavery, man, like I said. And a lot of our people, they wasn't going for that, but, got to a point to where, it was just like, enough is enough in this flesh. People gave in, and that's what, did it. But nonetheless, these nations, they won't have to receive what they've done. But nonetheless, man, showing you, again, they put these things in here forcefully in order to deceive and stop us from worshiping the true and living God. Because once one of these, continue these different religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, right, we continue to go stray away from our God. And the Lord continues to bring upon us judgments. And that these nations can rule over us and that we be their servants, man. But really, we're supposed to be one of them. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to be our servants. I'm actually getting a verse in that little one. Verse 8. Moreover, they went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews that they should observe the same fasts and be partakers of their sacrifices. And you see, they went as far as what? This Greek. To call in the other nations that was round about him that had nothing to do with the enslavement of the Israelites. To what? Well, actually, no, they had everything to do with the enslavement of us, but they had nothing to do with the Greeks and enslaving us. And they made the nations that they ruled over to do the same things that they made us do. The same thing that the Greeks made us do, is keeping these different feasts with ivy. But all in the name of what caused us to forget. And guess what? Those other nations, they bowed down to it because what? They stopped worshiping their gods and they switched over to the gods of these Greeks, man. Because what these nations truly don't believe in serving a true living God like we do, bro. So they all did that in order to see the Israelites, man. Right? What do you know? And whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might the men have seen the present misery, man. That's how bad they did us. That's why in slavery, man, they was doing it so bad they made us call ourselves by different names. No longer will we call all these different Hebrew names. Nawak, right? Yarambi, right? All these different Hebrew names. Yawasap. But now what? We're called, all these different Americanized names. These Greek, Roman names. All right, let me get this real quick. Ecclesiastes 10 and verse number 5. Let's start at verse 7. I have seen the servants upon horses and with us, right? And they're the servants upon horses, right? They're the so-called slave masters of our people of today's time. But really, they're servants, right? But the reason that they're ruling over us because we strayed away from our God. It says, and princes walking the servants upon earth. And what are princes? What are kings? What are priests, right? Walking upon the earth while these people are the masters on these horses, having a shackle on the earth. And we're supposed to be the ones ruling over them, right? It's all because strayed away from our Lord. Man. We got to return. That's why these videos are being made to compel Israel to turn back to their God. Man. How about you, man? Cast away these false idols, cast away these false gods, and serve the Lord the way you're supposed to. That everything shall be well with us, right? And they understand that what us being ruled over the earth as kings and priests and all these different things, because they understand that the scriptures are true, right? But they try to make it seem as if it's a lie, try to cause people to depart from it. It's all by design, man. You can't be fooled. You can't be deceived. Let me get a quick scripture. The second Ezra, the 7th chapter. I'm going to start at verse 10. And I said, it is so, Lord. Then he said unto me, even so also is Israel's portion, because for their sakes I made the world. Right? And when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done. So the Lord made the world for the sake of the Israelites. They should know that. They don't want us to, rule over this earth. They want to continue to rule over it. So they set up all manner of crafty counsel so that they can try to continue to do so. But the Lord has appointed time for them to read about in the so-called New Testament, the times of the Gentiles. Now, once that's fulfilled, that's what our kingdom is going to get. It's going to be an everlasting kingdom that's never going to stop. But I want to give this quick precept. Genesis 22. Instead of verse 15, about how the Lord promised everything to us, man. These nations are supposed to serve us. And the angel of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and he said, By myself have I sworn, saith the Lord, because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies, man. Like, we're going to possess all these nations as cattle, man, as property. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. And that's if we obey the voice of the Lord. But they want to stop us so that what? We don't be blessed. So we don't move over all the gates of our enemies, man. You know? So this is why they try to keep us in sin. Right? But, you know, again, showing you what the Lord really promised to us, man, in the end. When it's all said and done. Let me get another scripture. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 27, Shalaki. Genesis chapter 27, and verse 28. Therefore, the Most High give thee of the dew of heaven, and of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. So this is the blessing of Jacob, right? Meaning all the knowledge, wisdom, and understand. Let the people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. These nations know these things, man. You know? They don't want these things to happen. That's the why, again, they're incorporating all these false religions into our book. These false gods and idols that the Lord commands us to bury in the scriptures, man. And they made it so much to the point where our people are now okay with, you know, worshiping these idols. And once upon a time, you know, our people understood that there was a punishment that you would literally get put to death if you wanted to keep these idols alive. And now our people are so pacified to where they think that's, you know, too far, taking it too far. You're being over righteous, you know. And really, that's righteousness, man. Right, thus saith the Lord. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 26. And he that overcometh to keep my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter shall be broken to shivers, even as thou received of my Father, and I will give him the morning star. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the church. So we're going to rule over the nations if you overcome. You know, you endure to the end. I think we get like one more. It's Isaiah chapter 60. I'm going to read start at 9. Surely the owl shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from far, their silver and their gold with them unto the name of the Lord thy God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he hath glorified thee. You know, and they're going to bring all their wealth to us, man. They don't want that. Can you imagine the white man, him, knowing that he has to give you all of his wealth that he's accumulated through extortion back to us, all of the things in which, you know, all the money and things which we give to a society back, you know, to us, you know, that gives them nightmares. You can't go to sleep thinking about that. Verse 10: And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls. They're going to build up the kingdom of heaven, and their king shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gate shall be open continually; they shall not be shut day nor night. Then that men may bring unto you the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. Right? I mean, they're going to give us all the wealth. So our doors going to have to stay open, man. They took so much stuff that day and night they're going to have to bring in, you know, all of our riches. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. And that's what they know. They know that, you know, they don't want to serve us in in righteousness, right? So they want to rather, you know, deceive us and have us, you know, forced to bow down to their wickedness, so that, you know, they don't have to obey us and serve us in righteousness, because they hate righteousness and they want to continue to freak off and lust in the flesh, and ultimately not have us rule over them in righteousness, which is very, very sick and wicked. And we see why the Lord is going to destroy these nations in there. It says, verse 13, the glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, and the box together. These trees represent nations. That's Mark chapter 8, verse 23 to 20. Mark chapter 8, verse 22 through 24. To beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will make the place of my feet glorious. The sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee. They're going to bend down. They're going to worship. They're going to acknowledge that we're the sons of the living God. They that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet. And the Lord lets us know right here that what, these nations, they hate us. And he shall call thee the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. And they're going to hate to have to be that. Right, we're servants, we're slaves, and you're really the true gods and kings on this earth. You know? They look at us now as niggas, man. And that day they're going to be looking at us as gods. Right, but all in all, man, this underworld stuff, man, it goes back to idol worship, which if the Israelites worship, right, guess what? It's a sin, like I said, and a curse to us, which hinders us from the blessings, right? You know, there's many different scriptures that prove how, you know, we go off, we worship the gods of these different nations, you know, these nations, period, you know, to allow them to inhabit our land, you know, having mercy on them and all these different things. It's going to come back to bite us, you know, in the behind. It's the book of Leviticus, chapter 26 and verse 1. You shall make no idols, nor graven image, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall you set up any image of stone in your land to bow not unto it, for I am the Lord your God. Ye shall keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. I am the Lord. If ye walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them, then I will give you rain in due season, and the land shall your herb increase, and the trees of the field shall your herb fruit, and your threshing shall reach unto the vintage, and the vintage, right, shall reach unto the sowing time, and ye shall eat your bread to the full, and dwell in your land safely. And I will give peace in the land, and ye shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid, and I will rid evil beasts out of the land. Neither shall the sword go through your land, and ye shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword. And 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall put 10,000 to flight, and your enemies shall fall before you by the sword. You know, that's if we keep these laws. We don't worship these idols. But if we don't, guess what? The opposite is going to happen. We're not going to be the ones who's going to be chased by the sword by our enemies. Right? We're going to be the ones not having rain. You know? But when we keep these laws, hey, we're the ones that have everything. You know, we're never going to lack. We're going to be the ones lending, and we're not going to be the ones borrowing. All right. We have another scripture proving how, you know, we must keep these laws. If we don't, you know, because of the stipulation and consequence. Just like with any parent, you know, let's say a parent, there's going to be a punishment, an ass whooping if you're an Israelite. Deuteronomy 20:16. But of the cities of these people which the Lord thy God doth give thee for an inheritance, thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth, but thou shalt utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites and the Amorites, the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, as the Lord thy God commanded you. So the Lord commands us to destroy all these nations. Why? Verse 18, that they teach you not to do after all their abominations which they have done unto their gods, so should ye sin against the Lord your God. Right, so we'll tell you these things so we don't sin against them and begin practicing and following ways of these other nations. Now, we're the ones that's going to be destroyed before our enemies. You know what I'm saying? It's very simple. But our people, they disobeyed. You know, now we're in a predicament that we're in. Now we have to break down to our people why the hell, you know, Hades and Tartarus and all these make-believe lands are not in the scriptures. You know, because y'all niggas didn't want to listen. Y'all niggas didn't want to obey. You know, but it's, you know, it's all the will of the Lord at the end of the day. Right, again, these nations know the truth, man. They know that we're the worst people. They continue to trick and deceive us so that they can continue in rulership forever. It's the book of, well, they think they're going to continue forever, but they're not. Their time is going to be cut short sooner than later. It's the Jeremiah 50, verse 6. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherd have caused them to go astray, right? Our leaders, they have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place, right? Going from this religion to that religion, that God to that God, that ideology to that ideology. Verse 7, and all that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, this is what our enemies say about after devouring us. We offend not, meaning what? We're not doing anything wrong. Why? Because they have sinned against the Lord, right? Because these nations know about the covenant that we have with the Lord, our God, via Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They're not going to tell us because what? They want to continue to rule for what they think is going to be forever. It says the habitation of justice, even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. So they know the Lord made a covenant with our fathers. From the ancient times, their fathers told them these things, man. So now, guess what? They feel as though they're not doing anything wrong because you went off. But guess what? You are doing something wrong because you're directly affecting the children people of the Most High with the spirit of the Most High within them through your diverse torture tactics and your wicked ideologies and beliefs in gods. That's going to come to bite you right back in the tail, man. I'm going to get a few precepts. You know, on these nations and their deceitfulness and how they know what's going on. They know damn well, you know, what's going to happen if we don't keep these laws. This is the book of Numbers 25 and verse 1. In Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab, meaning intermarriage, which you know the Lord didn't want us to do. They called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and that's what happens when we start dealing with the people of these other nations, man. We start intertwining with them and getting intermingled with their culture, man. And women have strength over men. You know what I'm saying? It says, and the people did eat and bowed down to their gods, man. You know, and it's only if, you know, the men give strength over unto them, right? But which they did through what? going on and marrying these other nations, women of these other nations. And they called the people into the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor. You see what happens when we let these nations continue to flourish and don't destroy everything that breathes, like I stated in the book of Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter. We start worshiping these gods and their other nations. These nations and their other gods, and their gods, man. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. And the Most High was very angry with us. Jumping down to verse 16. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Vex the Midianites and smite them, for they vex you with their wiles. Right? Meaning what? These people had planned to do these things on purpose. That wasn't just by coincidence, but we just stumbled upon these beautiful women, and now we made them our women. No, these nations, their rulers, their men, they came together and they had a meeting to where they planned on how they would be able to overtake us. This is one of the only options that they, kind of figured out. And, they begot us a woman, whereby they have begot you in the matter of Peor, and in the matter of Cosbi, the daughters of the prince of Midian, your sister, which was slain in the day of the plague for Peor's sake. That's what they continue to do to this very day. Christianity, do all these false religions. And we got to be aware of these things, man, so we don't be entrapped and ensnared by them any longer. Right? You can read about Samson in the book of Judges, the 16th chapter. It's a quite long account, but nonetheless, right? Samson, right? His power was with the Most High, right? Through his vow, which he had with the Most High, right? And then his Philistine wife kind of get some answers out of him. She snitched to her people, and her people ultimately was set against Samson to destroy him. You know what I'm saying? Right? Because ultimately they were let in on a secret pertaining to Israelites is what? Keeping the commandments is what makes us strong, which what makes us right unbeatable, undefeated. You know what I'm saying? So that's just another account. But nonetheless, this all goes back to it being our fault that we fell to those idols, right? Having been disobedient to our God, right? By not destroying these nations and their false gods and idols out of the land, right? That the Most High warned us about specifically, right? That would be a snare to us and a thorn to us, right? And you read about these nations and their different gods being a snare and a thorn to us if we let them overtake us through us not obeying the commandments of the Most High, through us not destroying everything that breathes of these nations, through us, marrying their women. Right? This is why the Lord told us to have no dealings nor seek peace with these nations ever. You know what I'm saying? He literally commands us not to make peace with these nations, not to be their friends, like how our people want to be friends with the so-called white man every day, all day, nowadays. These nations hate our guts. And history testifies up without us having to tell. But this is the book of Numbers, chapter 33 and verse 55. But if you will not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come to pass that those which they let remain of them shall be pricks in your eyes. Just like when you have a branch fall in your eyes and that's very uncomfortable and it hurts. It gets on your damn nerves, you want it down. Do everything in order to try to get that out because it hurts like hell. And it's the same thing with these other nations, right? These nations are going to get in to us. They're going to have us go through the most immense amount of pain for no damn reason. It says, and thorns in your sides. It shall vex you in the land wherein ye dwell. Moreover, it shall come to pass that I shall do unto you as I thought to do unto them. And that's the repercussions for us not obeying and doing everything the Lord commanded us, especially regarding the nations and destroying them and their idols. Guess what? It came back to bite us in the ass, man, which is why we're in the lowest state that we're in today. The Lord, He warned us about it, man. But guess what? Our people wanted to be stiff-necked and do their own thing and to live according to these nations. It was envious of these nations. And guess what? Now we're paying a fine. This is the book of Joshua, chapter 23, verse 11. Take good heed, therefore, unto yourselves that ye love the Lord your God, else if ye do in any wise go back and cleave unto the remnant of these nations, even these that remain among you, and shall make marriages with them, and go in unto them, and they to you. Know for it certainly that the Lord your God will no more drive out any of these nations from before you. That's what we see now. That's why these nations are in our land. They claim to be us and fool the whole world. Because what? You broke the commandments of the Most High. But they shall be snares and traps unto you, and scourges in your sides, and thorn in your eyes, until you perish from off this good land which the Lord your God hath given you. And also proves that we're not going to be in the land, right? But nonetheless, they did all these diverse things to what? Us ultimately not destroying them. And behold, this day I'm going the way of all the earth, and in all your hearts and in all your souls, that not one thing failed of all these good things which the Lord your God spake concerning you. All are come to pass unto you, and not one thing hath failed thereof. Therefore it shall come to pass that as all good things are come upon you, which the Lord your God promised you, so shall the Lord bring upon you all evil things until he hath destroyed you from off this good land which the Lord hath given you. When ye have transgressed the covenant of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, and have gone and served other gods, like those underworld gods, Greek gods, and bowed yourselves to them, then shall the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and ye shall perish quickly from off the good land which you have given you now. You know? That's why these false gods, idols get a lot of our people put to death, in these last days by the Lord. He stated that, man. It's a promise, it's a solemn swear. The Lord said, hey, we're going to perish. You read about this all throughout the scriptures. It's the repercussions of us worshiping these idols. And a lot of our people are going to die worshiping these idols to this very, last days. There's only going to be a few of our people that's going to make it and that's going to escape through not worshiping these idols. Right? And I don't really have to dive into all that, but I'm going to get like 2 verses, what I'm saying, proving how the Lord, he's going to do away with anybody that worships these strange God, right, by the time he come back. But those mine enemies, right, the Lord can have enemies of his own people, right, aside from these other nations, which are our enemies unanimously by default. But those mine enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, meaning what? Right, yeah, he should be the king of our people, man, and righteousness, instructing us, Really, we're going to have, the law in our inward part, but unless he's going to be the one, that's the top and the head in the kingdom, right? But guess what? Those are our people that want to rule over us. These other nations unanimously, which will not that I shall reign over them, still worshiping Christianity, Islam, bring hither and slay them before me. That's what's going to happen. They're going to have to, face the fierce wrath of the Lord without mixture, man. And the great wine press, as it's prophesied in the book of Revelation, the 14th chapter. Right, and we get this as well in 2 Peter 3:16. Right, such a blessing to have this word and this knowledge broken down, unto us in such a way, man. If you're hearing this video, never been introduced to this, man, it's a blessing, in itself to be able to come across such a thing, right? The Lord, is ultimately stretching out his hands to you. You just got to accept it. 2 Peter 3:16 is also in all his epistles, speaking of them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable rest, as they do also the other scriptures, right? And that concept of hell, without me diving into it like this, going into a million precepts, it's kind of hard to understand. You might think it's actually talking about hell, right? But guess what? Which they that are unlearned and unstable rest, right? If you're unlearned, you don't really study the scriptures. You really don't have the Holy Spirit keeping the commandments, as they do also the other scriptures. Like you Christianity misinterprets the other millions and billions of scriptures unto their own destruction. And you could do that, right? You could believe in this false reality concept of hell and follow the religion of Christianity and misinterpret the scripture to your own destruction. So you got to be very careful when you deal with the Bible, man. All right. But really, these are like, the main things I really wanted to touch on, right? Lord willing, this video was edifying, right? I want to give all praise on the Lord to the Most High for always giving me the strength and the power and the might to follow through these videos to a T. Call Allah Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Mashiach, Malak Yahushua. With that, shalom, see you in the next.